We live in the information age. For any decision, no matter how small, we have access to an ocean of data, expert analyses, and thousands of outside opinions. We create spreadsheets to choose a career. We make pro and con lists to decide on a relationship. We spend hours researching online before taking the slightest step. We have built a world that glorifies logic, that worships data, and that has convinced us that the right answer is always found outside of ourselves in some external and verifiable source. However, for many, the result of this information overload is not clarity. It is paralysis. It is a silent anxiety, a chronic doubt that leaves us frozen at life's crossroads. Despite having more maps than ever, we feel profoundly lost. Our compass is broken. And the most frustrating part of all is that voice that whispers afterward when the decision has already been made and the outcome is not what was expected. The voice that says with a painful calm, "I knew it. I felt this wasn't the way. My first gut feeling warned me, and I ignored it." That gut feeling, that hunch, that visceral sensation we cannot explain with logic, is the ghost of our abandoned intuition. And the real pain comes not from having made the wrong decision, but from the act of self-betrayal, from having ignored the wisdom that already resided within us. We have been taught to believe that this hunch is an irrational impulse, a primitive echo that must be suppressed in favor of cold analysis. But what if that silent voice were not an impulse, but a higher form of intelligence? An intelligence that processes millions of bits of information in an instant, far beyond the capacity of our conscious mind. And what if that feeling in the body were the fastest, most accurate way to access the truth? This is a journey to reclaim that lost compass. A journey to learn to distinguish the serene and calm voice of intuition from the anxious shouting of fear and the ego. We will explore how our body is the sounding board for this intelligence, how our dreams send us coded messages, and how we can begin to trust this guidance to make decisions that are bolder, faster, and above all, more aligned with our true self. Silence holds all the answers. It's time to learn how to listen. Chapter 1. The Rational Mind, the Perfect Cage. To learn to listen again, we must first understand why we became deaf. The disconnection from our intuition is not a personal failure, nor a flaw in our character. It is the logical, almost inevitable result of a success story. It is the triumph of a part of our mind that became so powerful, so effective, that it ended up eclipsing all the others. That part is the rational mind. The rise of the rational mind as the absolute monarch of the human experience is a relatively recent story. For millennia, humanity navigated the world guided by myth, instinct, and intuition. But about 400 years ago, during the Enlightenment and the scientific revolution, a new power emerged. Philosophers like René Descartes declared, "I think, therefore I am," placing logical thought as the definitive proof of our existence. The scientific method gave us a system to observe, measure, and predict the material world with unprecedented precision. This new approach was a spectacular success. It allowed us to cure diseases, build cities, travel the world, and set foot on the moon. The rational, analytical, and linear mind gave us the power to dismantle the secrets of the universe and to build a technological civilization. It became our most valuable tool, our superpower as a species. And therein lies the origin of our inner crisis. The tool was so successful, so dazzlingly potent, that we forgot it was just a tool. We began to believe it was the entirety of our intelligence. We confused a part of our consciousness with the whole of our being, and in doing so, we began to build a cage, an invisible, comfortable, even luxurious cage, but a cage nonetheless. A perfect cage for thought, but a prison for the soul. The bars of this cage are not made of iron, but of the fundamental beliefs of our civilization. The first bar, and the earliest one we encounter, is the educational system. From the first day of school, we enter a system designed to train and reward the rational mind. We are taught to memorize facts, to follow instructions, to solve logical problems, and to arrive at the correct answer. We are rewarded for certainty and penalized for ambiguity. A child who raises their hand and says, "I don't know the answer, but I feel that it's this," is quickly corrected. A child who gets lost in their imagination or who asks strange, off-topic questions is labeled as distracted. The system, in its eagerness to create productive citizens, teaches us to look for answers in the textbook, on the blackboard, in the teacher's authority, anywhere except within ourselves. We learn a deep and lasting lesson. Truth is external. The second bar is forged when we enter the corporate world. The language of business is the language of data. Decisions are justified with spreadsheets, market analyses, and key performance indicators, KPIs. In a boardroom, a hunch is not a valid argument. If you say, "I feel we should launch this product," even though the numbers don't fully support it, you will likely be looked at with condescension. You will be asked to prove your case, to present a cost-benefit analysis, to project the return on investment. Intuition is banished, considered the domain of dreamy artists, not serious professionals. To survive and thrive in this environment, we learn to suppress our inner guidance and rely exclusively on external analysis. We become experts at justifying our decisions with data, even when, deep down, the decision was already made by an intuitive impulse that we then dress up in the suit of logic. The third bar is the scientific materialist paradigm that permeates our culture. It is the belief that if something cannot be measured, weighed, observed, and quantified, then it is not real. Consciousness, love, beauty, and of course intuition become suspicious phenomena, ghosts in the machine, byproducts of chemical reactions in our brain. Intuition, by its very nature, is non-linear, non-local, and frustratingly difficult to measure in a laboratory. Therefore, in this paradigm, it is relegated to the realm of superstition, magical thinking, or self-deception. By accepting this worldview, we deny ourselves permission to believe in the validity of our deepest experiences. The fourth and final bar, forged by the previous three, is the fear of being wrong. The logical mind, with its data and analyses, offers an illusion of security. If you make a decision based on an exhaustive spreadsheet and the project fails, you have an alibi. You can say, "I did my due diligence. The decision was backed by the data. The failure belongs to the model, the market, the circumstances." But if you make a decision based on a strong intuitive impulse and you fail, there is no possible alibi. The failure feels entirely personal. You risk others and yourself telling you, "See, you were a fool. You got carried away by nonsense." This fear of seeming irrational or stupid is an incredibly powerful guardian that keeps us locked in the safety of logic, even when that logic leads us down a path that feels dead inside. Permanently living inside this cage of rationality has consequences. It generates a series of symptoms that define the malaise of our time. The first is analysis paralysis, the inability to make a decision because we are drowned in a sea of information and options. The more data we accumulate, the more anxious we feel, because the rational mind can always find an argument for and against any option. The second symptom is a chronic lack of purpose. When all our life decisions, career, partner, place of residence, are made based on logic, security, and external expectations, it is possible to build a life that looks perfect on a resume but feels completely empty inside. It is the silent lament of, "I did everything I was supposed to do. Why am I not happy?" The third symptom is a deep self-distrust. By constantly externalizing the source of truth, our muscle of inner trust atrophies. We become addicted to the opinions of others, to reviews, to expert validation, unable to know what we truly want or feel without first consulting the outside world. And finally, the symptom of chronic exhaustion or burnout. Living exclusively from the rational mind requires an immense amount of energy. The effort of analyzing, controlling, planning, and foreseeing every possible outcome is exhausting. It is like trying to navigate a ship in a vast ocean using only a pair of oars, completely ignoring the power of the wind and the currents. Intuition is the wind in our sails. Ignoring it condemns us to row endlessly. The solution to this is not to kill the rational guardian and recklessly escape the cage. The rational mind is a magnificent tool, a brilliant servant. It is a sharp knife, perfect for cutting, analyzing, and dissecting. But you cannot use a knife to drink water. The goal is integration. It is to return the rational mind to its role as a trusted servant, and to restore intuition to its rightful place as the wise counsel, the master that guides the journey. To begin this process of integration, we must first become aware of the bars of our own personal cage. Practice detecting the bars of your own cage. I invite you to a brief reflection. Take your journal or simply close your eyes and honestly answer these questions. 1. The trust inventory. When you face an important decision, whether professional or personal, what is your first instinctive impulse? Is it to open your computer to research and gather data, or is it to sit in silence to feel the answer within? Recall a time in your life when you ignored a strong hunch or a bad feeling and later regretted it. What arguments did your logical mind use at that moment to convince you to ignore that feeling? Now, recall a time when you followed your intuition, even though it seemed illogical or risky, and it turned out to be the right decision. How did that act of trust feel? What did you learn from that experience? If you had to rate your level of trust in your own intuition at this moment in your life on a scale of 1 to 10, what number would you give it? 2. The intuitive micro-risk experiment. Over the next week, I propose a small challenge for you. Choose a low-risk decision, one that you would normally analyze or ask for opinions on. It could be what movie to watch, which restaurant to choose for dinner, what route to take to work, or what book to start reading. Instead of researching, do the following. Present the options to your mind, and then, without thinking, simply choose the one that gives you the slightest feeling of yes, of lightness, or of curiosity. Follow that impulse without questioning it. Afterward, observe the outcome without judgment. It doesn't matter if the restaurant was the best in the world or not. The goal of this exercise is not to get it right, but to practice the act of listening to and obeying your inner guidance in safe situations. It is the first rep in the gym to strengthen your intuitive muscle. Chapter 2. You don't just think with your brain, the intelligence of the body. The great legacy of Descartes' philosophy, I think therefore I am, while being the foundation of the age of reason, also bequeathed us a deep wound, a fracture between the mind and the body. We have learned to see ourselves as a thinking mind, a rational I that inhabits a body, like a pilot inside a machine. We treat our body like a vehicle, a transport that needs to be fueled, maintained with exercise, and taken to the mechanic, the doctor, when it breaks down. We use it to carry our head from one meeting to another, but we rarely stop to think that this vehicle might have a wisdom of its own. We consider it a servant, often a noisy one full of complaints, but never a counselor. This is one of the most tragic amnesias of modern civilization. We have forgotten that we don't have a body. We are a body. And this body is not a simple machine of flesh and blood. It is an information processing system of almost unimaginable sophistication. It is the first receiver of intuition, the antenna that picks up signals from the world long before the conscious mind can analyze and label them. To awaken the power of your silent certainty, the first step is not to think more. It is to feel more. It is to learn to come down from the noisy attic of the head and descend into the silent, wise library of the body. When we say hunch or I feel it in my gut, we are not using simple metaphors. We are describing, with astonishing precision, real neurobiological processes. Science is beginning to confirm what sages and mystics have known for millennia. We think with our entire being. Consider the enteric nervous system, often called our second brain. In the walls of our gut reside more than 100 million neurons, more than in the entire spinal cord. This intestinal brain is not thinking about differential calculus, but it is feeling, processing, and constantly communicating with the brain in our head. It produces more than 90% of our body's serotonin, a key neurotransmitter for mood and well-being. That feeling of butterflies in the stomach before a new opportunity, or the knot of anxiety before a difficult decision is not your imagination. It is your second brain processing information at a visceral level and sending a clear, direct signal to your consciousness. Similarly, the heart is not just a blood pump. Research from institutes like HeartMath has revealed that the heart has its own complex nervous system called the heart brain. This system sends many more signals to the cranial brain than it receives from it. The heart generates an electromagnetic field that is by far the most powerful in the body, a field that measurably changes according to our emotions. When we feel love, gratitude, or compassion, our heart's rhythm becomes coherent, orderly, and sends signals of calm and clarity to our brain. When we feel fear or anger, the rhythm becomes chaotic and incoherent and sends alarm signals. That feeling of your heart opening or closing to a person or situation is a real perception of a biophysical state. The body, therefore, speaks to us constantly, but its language is not words. Its language is sensation. It is a binary, primitive, and brutally honest language, and its two fundamental words are expansion and contraction. Expansion is the body's yes signal. It is the response to something that is in alignment with your true self, with your path. It feels like an opening in the chest, as if you can breathe more deeply. It feels like warmth, like lightness, like a flow of energy. It is the feeling you get when you listen to a piece of music that moves you, when you are in the presence of someone with whom you feel completely safe, or when an opportunity presents itself that, although it scares you, you know is for you. Contraction is the body's no signal. It is the response to something that is in dissonance with your being. It feels like a knot in the stomach, tension in the shoulders, a tightness in the throat. It feels like coldness, like heaviness, like a subtle but undeniable shutting down of your vital energy. It is the feeling you have when you are about to say yes to a commitment you don't want, when you are in a conversation with someone who is not trustworthy, or when you consider a career path that your logical mind approves of, but that your soul rejects. Beyond this primary language, the body has other more specific signals in its intuitive vocabulary. Goosebumps are not just a reaction to the cold. Often they are a response to a profound truth. They occur when someone says something, or you read a sentence that resonates with a forgotten part of your being. It is a physical confirmation that tells you, pay attention, this is important. The involuntary sigh, the one that sometimes escapes us for no apparent reason, is often the body releasing a tension we didn't even know we were holding. It can happen after making a difficult decision, signaling that on a deep level, we have accepted the path and are ready to release the resistance. Why then, if we are constantly receiving this avalanche of somatic data, do we find it so difficult to listen to it? Why do we trust an email more than our own stomach? The reason is that the language of the brain, the voice of our inner narrator, is loud, verbal, and explicit. The language of the body is silent, nonverbal, and subtle. We have spent decades in an educational and professional system that has trained us to value only the first language. Analysis, criticism, internal debate. That is the conversation that dominates our consciousness. The body's sensations, having no words, are easily ignored, dismissed as gas, fatigue, or nerves. To learn to listen to our body, we need to do the opposite of what we have been taught. We need to turn down the volume of the head so we can turn up the volume of sensations. We need to resensitize ourselves. Practice, the body's laboratory. This practice is not about interpreting every sensation, but about rebuilding the neural connection between your conscious mind and your body's intelligence. Exercise 1, the Decision Body Scan. This is your first training exercise. Choose a small, low-risk decision you have to make right now. It could be what to have for dinner tonight, which friend to call, or what task to tackle first tomorrow. Step A. Sit in a quiet place and close your eyes. Take a couple of deep breaths to center yourself. Step B. Bring option A to your mind. For example, have pasta for dinner. Hold that option in your mind for 30 seconds. Do not analyze the pros and cons. Simply hold the idea. And now, Bring your attention to your body. Start at your feet and slowly move up. Legs, stomach, chest, shoulders, throat, jaw. What do you notice? Is there any area of tension, heaviness, or contraction? Or do you feel lightness, warmth, openness? Do not judge, just notice. Step C. Now, completely release option A. Imagine your mind is a slate you have just wiped clean. Take another deep breath. Step D. Bring option B to your mind. For example, have a salad for dinner. Hold it in your mind for 30 seconds, and again, scan your body from head to toe. What do you notice now? Is the sensation different? Lighter or heavier? More expansive or more contractive? The goal is not for the body to give you a magical command. The goal is for you to begin to notice that different possibilities generate different physical responses. You are learning to read the subtle reactions of your inner compass. Exercise 2. The somatic journal. This is the next step to build a vocabulary of your body's signals. At the end of each day for a week, open your journal and answer these 2 questions. 1. At what point today did I feel a clear sense of expansion in my body? Was it a feeling of lightness, energy, openness in the chest, a spontaneous smile? Describe the moment. What was happening? Who were you with? What were you thinking about? 2. At what point today did I feel a clear sense of contraction in my body? Was it a knot in the stomach, tension in the shoulders, a feeling of heaviness or of wanting to flee? Describe the moment. What was happening? At the end of the week, read your entries. You will begin to see an incredibly clear pattern. You will discover that your body consistently reacts with expansion to certain people, environments, and activities, and with contraction to others. This journal is the creation of your personal instruction manual. Your body is showing you, without a doubt, what is aligned with you and what is not. Your body is not a taxi for your head. It is your wisest advisor, your most honest lie detector, and your most accurate compass. It is the anchor of your intuition. The first step to awakening silent certainty is to stop shouting instructions at it from the mind's control tower, and to start humbly listening to the wise whispers that emerge from its depths. Chapter 3. The Echo of the Future, Intuition and Time. What about those moments that completely challenge our notion of time? Those strange and fleeting instants when we seem to glimpse for a second an echo of what is to come. The inexplicable feeling of knowing that someone is about to call seconds before the phone rings. The sudden and illogical impulse to take a different path, only to discover later that we have avoided an accident. Or that hauntingly vivid dream that days or weeks later manifests in reality with astonishing precision. This is where we enter the deepest and, for the rational mind, most unsettling territory of intuition. This is where our inner compass seems to operate not only with the map of the present, but with one that includes landscapes we have not yet visited. Our conception of time is one of the most fundamental structures of our reality. We perceive it as an arrow, a river that flows inexorably from a fixed past, through a fleeting present, toward an open and uncertain future. This linear perception is incredibly useful for organizing our lives, for planning, and for learning from experience. But modern physics and ancient mystical traditions agree on a radical idea. This linear perception of time might be a construct of our consciousness, not a fundamental property of the universe. Some physicists, for example, postulate the block universe theory, which suggests that the past, present, and future exist simultaneously, all at once. In this model, the universe is like a complete film. Our consciousness is simply the projector that illuminates one frame at a time, creating the illusion of movement and a temporal sequence. But the entire film, from beginning to end, already exists. If this is so, then perhaps our deeper mind, our higher self, is not as limited by the projector as our ego consciousness is. Perhaps at certain moments, it has the ability to feel the resonance of frames that are further along in the film. This is not about predicting the future as a fixed and unalterable script. Life is not deterministic in that simple sense. It is more useful to think of the future as a field of probabilities, a set of energetic potentials. What intuition seems to do is not read a future written in stone, but rather feel the strongest energetic currents, the lines of probability that have the most momentum to manifest. It's like an experienced sailor who, feeling a subtle change in the wind and air pressure, knows a storm is approaching long before the clouds appear on the horizon. This faculty of sensing the echoes of the future manifests in our lives in several ways. The most dramatic is the premonition. It is a clear and often sudden warning or anticipation about a specific event. It is not an anxious worry. It is a calm and often unsettling certainty. It is the mother who, thousands of miles away, wakes up in the middle of the night with the absolute certainty that her child is in trouble. It is the entrepreneur who, about to sign the deal of a lifetime, feels such a resounding no inside that he pulls out of the deal, only to discover weeks later that the other company was on the verge of bankruptcy. These experiences are rare, but those who have lived them describe them as unmistakable. A much more common form is déjà vu, that strange feeling of having lived a moment before. Science often explains it as a small neurological short circuit, a lag between perception and memory. But from a Jungian perspective, déjà vu could be interpreted as a checkpoint for the soul, a moment when your present experience aligns perfectly with a potential path that your deeper psyche had already sensed. It's not that you remember the moment, it's that you recognize the feeling of being exactly where you are supposed to be, a subtle confirmation that you are on your path. Then there is the irrational impulse. This is perhaps the most practical messenger of the future. It is that illogical nudge to do something that makes no sense to your rational mind. The impulse to enter that bookstore you've never been in before. The impulse to take a different route home. The impulse to ask a casual acquaintance a personal question. Often we follow these impulses and the result is a synchronicity. In the bookstore, we find the book that contains the answer we were looking for. On the new route, we run into an old friend. In the conversation with the acquaintance, we discover a professional opportunity. These impulses are, in essence, your intuition acting on information from the future that your conscious mind does not yet possess. It is your deeper self telling you, go this way. I can't explain why now, but trust me. And of course, there are precognitive dreams. Although a controversial topic, the number of documented anecdotes throughout history of dreams that anticipate future events is immense. From inventors who dream of the solution to a technical problem to people who dream of world events before they happen. Dreams are the soul's workshop, a place where the barriers of time and space are much more fluid. Now, as we open ourselves to these possibilities, we enter delicate territory. It is crucial to learn to distinguish a genuine intuitive echo of the future from the noisy static of fantasy or anxiety. The ego is a master at disguising its desires and fears as if they were intuitions. The golden rule for discernment is the emotional quality. A genuine intuition about the future, even if it is a warning, is usually neutral, calm, and detached. It is a simple transmission of information, a serene knowing. It feels like you are reading a headline. In contrast, fantasy and anxiety are always charged with strong personal emotion. Desire, I have a feeling I'm going to win the lottery this Friday, feels feverish, excited, and attached to the outcome. Anxiety, I feel like something terrible is going to happen, feels contractive, catastrophic, and paralyzing. Intuition informs. The ego desires or fears. Learning to feel this difference is fundamental. Practice. Tuning into deep time. The following exercises are not intended to turn you into a psychic, but to cultivate a more open and receptive state of consciousness to the non-linear nature of intuitive information. Exercise 1. The conversation with your future self. This is a powerful visualization meditation. Find a quiet place. Close your eyes and relax. Step A. Imagine you are walking along a path and in the distance, you see a figure sitting on a bench. As you get closer, you realize that this figure is you, but a version of you from 5 or 10 years in the future. This future version of you radiates calm, wisdom, and a deep self-confidence. They have successfully navigated the challenges you are facing now. Step B. Sit next to them. You don't have to say anything. Simply feel their presence. Feel the calm and certainty that emanates from them. Step C. Now, from your current state, ask them a question. Do not ask for predictions. Ask for guidance. For example, what is the most important thing I should focus on right now? Or, what is the quality I most need to cultivate to overcome my current challenges? Step D. After asking the question, remain silent. Do not try to think of an answer. Simply receive what comes. It may be a single word, an image, a sensation in your body. That is the answer. Step E. Thank your future self for their wisdom, and slowly return your consciousness to the present. Write in your journal what you received. This exercise is a way of accessing your own deep wisdom, which often exists in a timeless state. Exercise 2. The Journal of Impulses and Intuitions. For the next week, you are going to become an observer of your own non-logical impulses. Dedicate a section of your journal to this. Throughout the day, write down every time you have an irrational impulse. I had the sudden urge to call my sister. I felt I shouldn't send that email yet. The name of an old colleague popped into my head out of nowhere. Next to each impulse, note whether you followed it or not. At the end of the day or at the end of the week, review your list. Don't look for dramatic premonitions. Look for patterns. Were there any consequences, positive or negative, from following or ignoring those impulses? Did it lead to any small synchronicity? The goal of this exercise is to start taking these little nudges seriously and build a database of personal experience that shows you that trusting them often has positive results. You are building the muscle of trust. Our linear perception of time is a useful tool, but it is not the whole story. Our intuition has the potential to operate beyond this construct, offering us guidance that is not only based on the memory of the past, but also on the latent potentials of the future. The goal of cultivating this sensitivity is not to become fortune tellers, but wiser navigators. It is to live with a greater sense of trust and flow, knowing that a deeper part of us has access to a panoramic view of our journey's map, not just the small stretch of road right in front of us. Chapter 4. The Dream as Messenger, the Wisdom of the Night. Every night, without exception, we attend a private showing in the world's most extraordinary theater, that of our own mind. We are presented with plays of overflowing creativity, with surreal settings, unexpected characters, and plots that defy all logic. And every morning, when the alarm clock rings, most of us rush out of the theater, letting the memory of the magnificent play just performed for us dissolve like the morning mist. Our modern culture has taught us to treat dreams as if they were the brain's background noise, the product of senseless neural digestion, the psychic equivalent of trash taken out at night. We consider them at best strange entertainments and, at worst, annoying disturbances to our rest. But in doing this, we are committing an act of profound negligence. We are ignoring one of the richest, most direct and personal sources of our intuitive guidance. Ancient cultures knew this. Shamans, mystics, and sages of all traditions understood that dreams are not random fictions. They are communiques. They are urgent and personal letters sent from the center of our being, from that deep intelligence we have called the higher self. To ignore your dreams is like ignoring the advice of the wisest, most loyal, and most insightful counselor you will ever have, a counselor who works exclusively for you night after night without charging a fee. To awaken the power of your silent certainty, we must learn to honor these nocturnal missives. We must learn to read the language in which they are written. The first thing we must understand is that the unconscious does not speak our language. The conscious mind, the one we use during the day, communicates in a logical, linear, and literal way. The unconscious, the director of our dream theater, communicates through a much older and richer language, the language of symbols, metaphors, and emotions. Trying to interpret a dream literally is the first and most common mistake. It is like trying to read a musical score as if it were a financial report. Dreaming that your teeth are falling out rarely means you need an urgent visit to the dentist. It is much more likely to be a symbol. For one person, it might symbolize a loss of power or self-confidence, losing their weapons to bite into life. For another, it could represent anxiety about their public image or what they say. The symbol is the same, but its meaning is intensely personal. The second key to understanding this language is that dreams are not organized by the logic of cause and effect, but by the logic of emotion. The events, characters, and images that appear in a dream sequence, however strange they may seem, are usually connected by a common emotional thread. To understand the central message of a dream, the most important question you can ask yourself is not, "What happened?" but "What was the dominant emotion I felt?" Did you feel fear, joy, confusion, wonder, sadness? Emotion is the compass that orients you in the symbolic landscape of the dream. Finally, the psychologist Carl Jung discovered one of the most important functions of dreams, the compensatory function. The unconscious always seeks balance, wholeness. Therefore, our dreams often present us with a perspective that compensates for an overly one-sided conscious attitude. If in your waking life you are an excessively controlling, rigid, and logical person, it is very likely that your dreams will be chaotic, wild, full of nature, and instinctive impulses. It is your psyche trying to remind you of the other half of yourself that you have neglected. If you consciously feel superior to someone, you might dream that this person has something you need. The dream is not insulting you. It is offering you a dose of humility to bring you into balance. With these keys, symbolic language, emotional logic, and the compensatory function, we can begin to explore the cast of characters and elements that appear in our nightly theater. The dream setting, the place where the action unfolds, often represents the area of your life or the aspect of your psyche that the dream is addressing. Dreaming of your childhood home may be related to themes of your origins, your family, or patterns learned long ago. Dreaming of your office may be exploring your ambitions, your professional conflicts, or your relationship with authority. A natural landscape may represent your inner world, while a labyrinthine city may symbolize a feeling of confusion and of being lost in your life. The characters in your dreams are perhaps the most fascinating element. The golden rule of Jungian interpretation is that every character in your dream is ultimately an aspect of yourself. Dreaming of your mother is not just about your real mother. It is about your own inner maternal archetype, your capacity to care or to be overprotective. Dreaming of an enemy is not just about that person. It is a representation of your own shadow, that part of you that you have repressed and that now confronts you. Unknown figures are especially important. A stranger who helps you in a dream could be the personification of a new quality emerging in you, like courage or wisdom. A figure chasing you could be an aspect of yourself that you are running from in your waking life. To decode these messages, you do not need a dream dictionary. Those dictionaries are useless because they impose universal meanings on symbols that are intensely personal. The key to understanding your dreams is not in an external book, it is in your own life. Practice. The art of dream interpretation. This practice will give you a structured method to begin a dialogue with your own dreams. Exercise 1. The capture ritual. The first and most crucial step is to remember the dream. Most dreams fade within minutes of waking. To prevent this, you need a ritual. Step A. Place a notebook and a pen right next to your bed. A dream journal. Step B. Before sleeping, set a clear intention. Tell your mind, "Tonight, I will remember my dreams." This simple act of intention dramatically increases your recall ability. Step C. Upon waking, whether in the morning or in the middle of the night, the golden rule is, do not move. Stay in the same position in which you woke up. The memory of the dream is tied to your bodily state. If you move abruptly, the thread breaks. Step D. With your eyes still closed, mentally review any fragment, image, or feeling that comes to mind. Do not try to organize it, just collect it. Step E. Immediately afterward, take your journal and write down everything you remember. A pro tip: write the dream in the present tense I am walking down a dark hallway. I see a red bird. This helps you relive the experience and remember more details. Note the images, people, dialogues, and above all, the emotions. Don't worry about grammar or sense. Simply empty the dream's content onto the paper. Exercise 2. The 4-question method. Once you have captured the dream, you can begin the work of interpretation. Do not look for a single correct answer. Interpreting a dream is like peeling an onion. It has many layers. This method will help you explore them. For each dream you record, answer these 4 questions in your journal. 1. Objective description. Describe the plot of the dream as if you were a non-judgmental reporter. What was the setting? Who were the characters? What was the sequence of events? How did it end? Be as factual as possible. 2. Personal associations. This is the heart of the method. Take the most important elements of the dream, a character, an object, an animal, a place, and brainstorm what they mean to you. Forget the dictionaries. If you dreamed of a dog, what does dog mean in your personal experience? Loyalty, play, fear, protection. If you dreamed of a bridge, what does it evoke for you? Connection, transition, risk. Write down all the words and feelings that come to mind for each key symbol. 3. Connection to waking life. Now, ask yourself the most important question of all. How does the central emotion or plot of this dream connect to what is happening in my life right at this moment? A dream is almost always a commentary on your current life situation. Are you facing a difficult decision? Are you in conflict with someone? Are you neglecting a part of your life? The dream is a mirror of your conscious state, often showing you what you do not want to see. 4. The intuitive message. After exploring the previous steps, you can now synthesize. Ask yourself, if this dream were a letter from my wisest self, what would be the main message? What is it asking me to recognize, to feel, to change, or to do? Write this conclusion in a single sentence. Your dreams are not mental trash. They are a nightly source of wisdom, a free, tailor-made consultation with your deepest being. They are a direct channel to your intuition, offering you diagnoses of your current state, warnings about wrong paths, and often, creative solutions to problems your conscious mind has been unable to solve. We have learned to listen to the wisdom of the body in the present and to explore the mysterious echoes of the future. And now we have opened the door to receive and interpret the symbolic messages of the night. We are tuning our instruments of perception. Now what happens when all these channels, the body, time, dreams, align and converge with an event in the outside world in such a dazzling way that it defies all explanation? In the next chapter, we will explore the pinnacle phenomenon of intuition in action, synchronicity, the GPS of the universe. Chapter 5. Synchronicity, the GPS of the universe. Sometimes intuition doesn't whisper. Sometimes, to ensure we get the message, it orchestrates an event in the outside world so precise, so timely, and so full of meaning that it's impossible to ignore. It is the moment when the universe seems to conspire to give us an unequivocal sign, a moment when the wall between our inner world and the outer world becomes transparent for an instant. This phenomenon is synchronicity, and it is perhaps the most dazzling and convincing way our intuition makes itself visible. The psychologist Carl Jung, who coined the term, described it as a meaningful coincidence. It is a bridge that connects an internal psychic state, a thought, a question, a dream, with an external, objective event without a cause and effect relationship between them. It's not that your thought causes the event. It's that both, the thought and the event, seem to arise from a deeper underlying pattern, like two dancers who, without looking at each other, perform the same move in perfect harmony because they are both listening to the same hidden music. If intuition is our inner compass, synchronicity is the GPS of the universe. It is a real-time navigation system that offers us confirmations, warnings, and new routes on our journey through life. It is not a spiritual luxury. It is an immensely practical navigational tool. In the context of intuitive guidance, Synchronistic events usually serve three main functions. The first is to act as a confirmation green light. This often happens when you have made a difficult decision, a decision based on an intuitive impulse that your rational mind doesn't quite approve of. You have decided to accept that job in another city, to leave that relationship that no longer nourishes you, or to invest in that project you are passionate about, but that seems risky. You are in a state of vulnerability, assailed by doubts. And then it happens. Just after making the decision, you turn on the radio, and the first song you hear speaks of new beginnings, or you come across a billboard with an image that perfectly symbolizes your new path. Or you receive a message from an old friend who, knowing nothing of your situation, tells you they admire your courage. These events are like a thumbs up from the cosmos. They don't give you new information, but they instill in you the confidence and strength needed to stay the course, to not give in to the ego's panic. They are the external validation of an internal certainty. The second function is that of a detour signal. Sometimes our intuition sends us no signals, but our ego, attached to a plan, refuses to listen. We are insistent on following a path that deep down we know is not for us. It is then that synchronicity can manifest as a series of strange and inexplicable obstacles. The key meeting for that project that isn't right for you is canceled 3 times for absurd reasons. You lose a crucial document. The flight for that trip you shouldn't take is delayed indefinitely. The rational mind interprets this as bad luck, or a series of frustrations to be overcome with more effort. But the symbolic mind stops and asks, what if this isn't an obstacle but a sign? What if the universe is putting up roadblocks on this path because it knows it leads me to a cliff? These negative synchronicities are often a blessing in disguise, your intuition's way of protecting you from your own bad decisions. And the third function is that of a treasure map. This happens when you feel completely lost. You don't have a plan to hold on to, just a deep question or a feeling of stagnation. You have let go of control and asked for guidance, and the guidance arrives, not as a complete revelation, but as a first clue. It's the book that falls off a shelf in a bookstore, revealing a title that speaks directly to you. It's the conversation you overhear by chance between 2 strangers in a coffee shop, which is about the exact problem that obsesses you. It's the unexpected encounter with a person who turns out to be the key to your next step. These synchronicities are breadcrumbs in the forest, Ariadne's threads that guide you through the labyrinth. They don't show you the final destination, but they always show you the next right step. As we open ourselves to this dialogue, we must be careful. There is a very fine line between the conscious perception of synchronicity and superstition. Superstition is rigid, fearful, and seeks to control the world. It imposes fixed and universal meanings on random events. If I see a black cat, I will have bad luck. It is an external belief system that generates anxiety. Synchronicity, in contrast, is perceived with an attitude of curiosity, openness, and wonder. Its meaning is never fixed. It is personal, dynamic, and depends entirely on the resonance between the external event and your inner state at that precise moment. A black cat may mean nothing to you for months, but if just at the instant you are contemplating embracing your dark side and taking a risk, an elegant black cat crosses your path and looks at you intently, the event takes on immense symbolic weight. The key is not in the event, but in the connection. It is not about a system of rules. It is about a relationship. Practice. The conscious signal. Hunter. Becoming a signal hunter is not about looking for omens in every cloud, but about cultivating a state of relaxed attention and a willingness to notice meaningful connections. Exercise 1. Setting the intention. Every morning, as part of your routine, set a guiding question for the day. It is not a goal you must achieve, but an intention for perception. It can be as simple as, today, I am open to receiving clarity on my next creative project. Or, today, I am paying attention to the signals that guide me toward greater inner peace. This simple act is like telling your reticular activating system, your brain's filter, What kind of information is important to you? It's like programming your personal GPS before leaving home. Exercise 2, the Synchronicity Journal. This is the most important exercise for developing your sensitivity. Dedicate a section of your notebook to recording these events. When you notice a coincidence that gives you that shiver of meaning, write it down using a 3-column structure. Column 1, my inner state. What was I thinking, feeling, or wondering right before the event occurred? Be as precise as possible. Column 2, the outer event. Objectively describe what happened. A song came on the radio with the exact lyrics I needed to hear. I ran into my old mentor on the street. Column 3, the meaningful connection. This is where you explore the meaning. What is the possible message, lesson, or guidance that connects the first 2 columns? How did the event make you feel? Did it confirm something, warn you of something, or open a new door for you? The goal of this journal is not to find a definitive answer for every event, but to practice the muscle of seeing connections, of thinking symbolically. Over time, you will be amazed at how often the universe answers you when you take the time to listen. Exercise 3, gratitude for the guidance. This is a micro-habit you can integrate into your day. Every time you notice a synchronicity, no matter how small, even seeing the same number repeatedly, take a second to pause and mentally say, thank you. It doesn't matter who you say it to, the universe, your higher self, God. The act of gratitude is an acknowledgement of the dialogue. It is a way of saying, message received, I am paying attention. This simple practice cultivates a relationship of reciprocity with the mystery, and paradoxically, often seems to invite more of these experiences to occur. Synchronicity is the way your intuition becomes visible in the world. It is the tangible bridge between your silent certainty and material reality. It is the proof that the universe is not a monologue, but a conversation. By learning to read these signals, you stop feeling like a leaf carried by the wind and begin to feel like a navigator who, though not in control of the ocean, knows how to read the stars to find their way home. Chapter 6. The Voice of Silence versus the Voice of Fear, Learning to Discern. But now, inevitably, we face the interpreter's dilemma. By opening this channel, we not only hear the pure signal of intuition, we also hear the static. The room of our consciousness fills with voices, and not all of them are reliable. There are 2 great impostors, 2 masters of disguise who mimic the language of intuition for their own ends. The first is the voice of fear. It is the voice of our past wounds, our traumas, our internal saboteurs. Its sole intention is to keep us safe within the confines of our comfort zone, and to do so, it speaks to us with an urgency that can feel like an intuitive warning. The second impostor is the voice of desire and the ego. It is the voice of our yearning, our impatience, our need for a specific outcome to feel happy or validated. Its intention is to satisfy a whim, and to do so, it can fabricate signs and hunches that justify what we have already decided we want. The greatest challenge on the path of intuitive awakening is learning to distinguish the true signal from the noise. It is learning to differentiate the serene and expansive voice of silence from the anxious screams of fear and desire. This discernment is not a skill you either have or don't have. It is an art that is cultivated with practice and radical self-awareness. To help you cultivate this art, we have distilled the wisdom of mystics, psychologists, and meditators into 7 tests of discernment. 7 signatures or qualities that act as a litmus test for any inner message you receive. 1. The emotional signature. This is the first and most revealing of the tests. Pay attention to the texture of the emotion that accompanies the message. True intuition is almost always calm, neutral, and detached. Even if it is warning you of a danger, the message arrives as a piece of objective, serene information. It feels like a quiet certainty. In contrast, fear and desire are always charged with a hot and agitated emotion. Fear feels contractive, anxious, heavy, and catastrophic. Desire feels feverish, excited, needy, and attached to the outcome. Intuition informs, fear and desire react. 2. The bodily signature. As we learned, the body is an honest resonator. A true intuitive signal often manifests in the body as a sensation of expansion. It might be an opening in the chest, a sudden lightness, a breath that becomes deeper and easier, or that feeling that everything clicks into place. Conversely, fear and desire almost always produce physical contraction. A knot in the stomach, tension in the shoulders and jaw, a tightness in the throat, short and shallow breathing. Your body does not lie. If a hunch is accompanied by physical contraction, it is very likely that its origin is fear, not intuition. 3. The temporal signature. Observe the speed and rhythm of the message. Intuition is often the first thought, the first feeling that emerges in an instant, before the logical mind has time to start analyzing and debating. It is quick, but it is not in a hurry. Its message is persistent but calm. Fear and desire, on the other hand, are impatient and urgent. Fear screams, "You have to decide right now or something terrible will happen." Desire demands, "You have to have this right now or you will never be happy." This false urgency is a manipulation tactic of the ego to prevent you from stopping, breathing, and listening to a deeper voice. 4. The narrative signature. Pay attention to how the voice speaks to you. Intuition is a few words. Its language is often simple, clear, and direct, sometimes even symbolic or metaphorical. It doesn't bother to justify itself. It simply states, "Go this way. Call that person. Wait." The voices of fear and desire, in contrast, are complex and chattering storytellers. They tell you a long story full of reasons, justifications, and elaborate future scenarios. Fear presents you with a detailed script of everything that could go wrong. Desire paints you an idyllic picture of everything you will gain. If the inner voice is trying to convince you with a long and convoluted argument, it is probably not your intuition. 5. The signature of focus. Analyze what the message focuses on. Intuition often focuses on the what, on the direction, on the next right step, but it leaves the how and the when open to mystery. It gives you the compass, but invites you to discover the map as you go. Fear and desire obsess over the how. They want a detailed plan, total control over every step of the process, because fundamentally, they do not trust the flow of life. They need the illusion of certainty that a rigid plan provides. 6. The ego signature. This is a crucial test. Ask yourself, who does this message serve? Intuition is humble. It always serves your growth, your wholeness, your alignment with your deeper self. That is why it sometimes guides you down paths that are difficult or that do not feed your vanity. Sometimes it asks you to apologize, to be vulnerable, to choose the less prestigious but more authentic path. Fear and desire always serve to protect or inflate the ego. Fear wants to protect your image and avoid embarrassment. Desire wants you to be admired, validated, and to feel special. If the message is fundamentally focused on how will I look or what will I get for myself, it is very likely the voice of the ego, not the soul. 7. The signature of peace. This is the ultimate test, the one performed after the action. When you follow a true intuitive impulse, even if the act itself was difficult or frightening, the feeling that remains afterward is almost always a deep and unmistakable sense of peace. It is the calm of knowing you have done the right thing, that you are in your place. In contrast, when you act from fear or desire, the subsequent feeling is usually a residue of anxiety. If you acted out of fear, you are left with the doubt of, what if I had taken the other path? If you acted out of desire and got what you wanted, you often discover a void, a feeling of, was this all there was? Peace is the seal of truth. Practice the discernment laboratory. Exercise 1. The autopsy of a past decision. The fastest way to learn to trust this system is to validate it with your own experience. Step A. Choose an important decision from your past that you now know in hindsight was a mistake. Close your eyes and travel to that moment. Review the 7 signatures. How did your body feel? Contraction. Was the voice urgent? Temporal signature. Did it tell you a complex story to convince you? Narrative signature. Be honest. Step B. Now choose a decision from your past that turned out to be excellent, perhaps one that seemed illogical at the time. Go back to that moment and review the 7 signatures. Was the feeling one of calmness, emotional signature? Did it arise as a quick and clear hunch, temporal signature? Did it leave you with a sense of peace afterward, signature of peace? This exercise will show you that, most likely, your internal guidance system has always been working. You simply didn't know how to read its signals. Exercise 2. The deliberate timeout. This is your primary tool for current decisions. When you face an important choice and feel a whirlwind of conflicting voices inside, do nothing. Declare a timeout. Commit to not making the decision for a set period of time. It could be 24 hours or even 1 hour. During this time, your only task is to divert your attention from the decision. Take a walk in nature, listen to music, exercise, meditate. The goal is to allow the emotional agitation of fear and desire to settle. Like a glass of muddy water, if you let it sit still, the mud settles and the water becomes clear. Often, at the end of this timeout period, when your mind is calmer, the calm and clear voice of intuition emerges with an answer that feels simple and self-evident. Discernment is not a science, it is an art. It is the art of knowing yourself so deeply that you can distinguish the truth of your soul from the noise of your wounds. It is not about eliminating fear or desire, as they are natural parts of the human experience. It is about learning to thank them for their opinion, and then kindly deny them permission to take the helm of your life. Chapter 7. The Muscle of Trust, From Doubt to Action. The rational mind, the dethroned queen, launches its last and most desperate counterattack with its most powerful weapon, doubt. What if you're wrong? It whispers. What if this is just a fantasy? What if you make a fool of yourself? It is useless to try to reason with this voice. You cannot convince it with arguments. Trust in your intuition is not an intellectual belief that is adopted. It is a relationship that is built. It is a muscle that, in most of us, has atrophied from decades of disuse. And like any muscle, the only way to strengthen it is through training, with consistent repetitions, starting with small weights and gradually increasing the load. The physics of trust is based on a simple neurochemical feedback loop. The cycle works like this. First, you receive a small intuitive impulse. Second, despite the doubt, you gather the courage to take a small action based on it. Third, you get a positive result or a valuable lesson. Fourth, your brain registers this success and releases a small dose of dopamine, the neurotransmitter of reward and motivation. This reward creates a positive association and strengthens the neural pathway between the intuitive signal and the trusting action. Every time you complete this cycle, you are performing a repetition in the gym of intuition. You are literally rewiring your brain, weakening the old highways of fear and doubt, and building a new superhighway of trust and self-leadership. Over time, acting on your intuition stops being a terrifying act of faith and becomes your natural mode of operation. Let's think of it as learning to ride a bicycle. At first, it's terrifying. Your rational mind screams about the danger of falling, about the lack of balance. You cannot learn to ride by reading a book on the physics of balance. The only way is to get on, feel the fear, wobble, and take the first pedal stroke. That first time you maintain your balance for 2 seconds is a revelation. Your body registers a new possibility. And with each successful pedal stroke, you build a somatic trust, a silent certainty in your muscles and in your nervous system, until finally, the act of maintaining balance becomes so natural that you stop thinking about it. The goal of this chapter is to give you a training plan to take you from being the trembling child clinging to the handlebars to being the cyclist who glides through life with grace and confidence. The intuition. Jim, your progressive training plan. We will structure your training into 3 levels of increasing difficulty. It is crucial that you do not skip levels. Starting with high-risk decisions is like trying to lift 200 kilos on your first day at the gym. It is a recipe for disaster. Level 1. Low-risk decisions. The 1 kilogram weights. The goal of this level is not to change your life. It is simply to build the habit of listening and acting. Here you will practice in situations where the consequences of being wrong are practically nil. This allows you to experiment and develop sensitivity without the pressure of performance. Examples of Level 1 exercises. The intuitive route. When driving or walking to a familiar place, ignore the GPS for a moment. Ask yourself, which path do I feel I should take today? And follow it, however illogical it may seem. The intuitive menu. In a restaurant, instead of reading every description and analyzing the options, close the menu, close your eyes, and ask yourself, what does my body need right now? Something light or something substantial? Something hot or something cold? Choose the first dish that comes to mind. The intuitive library. Go to a bookstore or a library. Do not look for a specific book. Simply walk down the aisles and let your hands and eyes guide you. Pick up the first book that calls out to you, regardless of the topic. You will often be surprised by its relevance to a question you had in the back of your mind. The intuitive. Call. When the name of a friend or family member pops into your mind out of nowhere, don't dismiss it. Take it as a sign. Pick up the phone and call them, just to say hello. 9 times out of 10, it may be a simple chat, but that 10th time you will discover that your call came at the exact moment that person needed you. Level 2. Creative and social decisions. The 5 kilograms weights. Once you feel comfortable acting in low-risk situations, you can increase the load. At this level, the decisions have a little more weight, but they are not yet critical to your survival or your career. Examples of Level 2 exercises. The crazy idea. In your next work meeting or brainstorming session, when you have that impulse, that idea that seems a bit strange or out of place, instead of censoring it, dare to share it. Say, this may sound a little crazy, but what if? You are training your creative genius to trust that its voice will be heard, not judged. The social experiment. At an event or a meeting, when you feel an inexplicable impulse to talk to a particular person, someone you wouldn't normally dare to approach, follow it. Go over and simply say, "Hi, I felt an impulse to introduce myself." You are practicing trust in your social intuition, one of the most powerful skills that exists. The intuitive no. When you are invited to a plan or a project and your logical mind tells you that you should go, but your body feels a clear contraction, practice saying no, kindly but firmly, without giving too many excuses. Thanks for the invitation, but I won't be able to make it this time. You are honoring the wisdom of your energy system over social obligations. Level 3. Professional and financial decisions. The 10 kilograms weights. This is the advanced level. You should only practice here when you have built a solid foundation of trust in the previous levels, when you can already clearly distinguish the voice of intuition from that of fear. At this level, intuition does not replace analysis. It integrates with it. Examples of Level 3 exercises. Silence in negotiation. During an important negotiation, when you feel the anxious impulse to fill a silence, practice doing the opposite. Trust your intuition that the silence is working in your favor, forcing the other party to reveal more information. The X factor in hiring. If you are interviewing 2 candidates for a position and both have impeccable resumes and skills, but you feel a clear resonance or a stronger hunch with one of them, give yourself permission to give significant weight to that intuitive factor in your final decision. The hunch. Veto. If you are about to make an investment or a financial decision that looks perfect on the spreadsheet, but you feel a persistent and inexplicable sense of contraction in your body, honor that feeling. It doesn't mean you should abandon the idea, but it is an unequivocal sign that you must stop, investigate further, and not proceed until that feeling of unease disappears. Practice your weekly training plan. Exercise 1. The 5 intuitive decisions. Challenge. This week, your challenge is to consciously make and record at least 5 level 1 decisions. Write them down in your journal. For example, Tuesday, I chose my route to work by intuition. Result, I found a wonderful new coffee shop and avoided a traffic jam. Thursday, I called my brother on an impulse. Result, he needed to talk to someone right at that moment. Exercise 2. Identify your next level. Spend 10 minutes writing in your journal about a level 2 or level 3 decision you are currently facing. Describe the situation. Note what your logical mind tells you about it. The pros, the cons, the analysis. Now close your eyes, take a deep breath, and note what your intuition tells you, the bodily sensation, the first hunch. Finally, note what the voice of fear tells you. Putting the 3 voices in writing will give you immense clarity about the true landscape of your decision. Exercise 3. The celebration of trust. Every time you follow your intuition this week and the result is positive, or it simply teaches you something valuable, don't just move on to the next item on your to-do list. Pause. Place a hand on your heart and say, mentally or out loud, "Thank you. Trusting you works." This simple act of recognition and celebration anchors the positive experience in your nervous system, accelerating the neural rewiring process. Trust in your intuition is not a gift, it is an achievement. It is built, decision by decision, in the gym of daily life. The goal is not to be right 100% of the time. Even the most fine-tuned intuition can sometimes be misinterpreted. The goal is to build a relationship so deep and respectful with your inner guidance that you can navigate life with the silent certainty that you are never truly alone in your decisions. By building this muscle of trust, we become bolder. We begin to make decisions that are not only correct, but are aligned with a greater purpose. Chapter 8. The split-second decision, the duel between logic and intuition. You feel more connected, more attuned. But inevitably, the day comes when the real challenge presents itself. It's not a game, it's not a practice. It is a decision that has the power to define the next chapter of your life. It's the job offer in another city, the marriage proposal, the investment opportunity that could change everything, or the difficult decision to leave a path that no longer serves you. And it is here, at this high-stakes crossroads, where the final battle is waged. The duel between the 2 great powers of your being, the rational mind and your deep intuition. The scenario is almost always the same. On one hand, logic presents an impeccable case. It deploys its spreadsheets, its pro and con lists, expert opinions, market data. Its argument is coherent, defensible, and above all, sensible. It's the voice that tells you, this is the smart move, it's safe, it's what everyone expects you to do. Anything else would be madness. The rational mind is like a brilliant lawyer, building a bulletproof case based on past evidence and future projections. And on the other hand, there is intuition. It presents no argument. It offers no data. It doesn't have a PowerPoint presentation. It simply offers a single, powerful testimony. A feeling. A resounding no that feels like a knot in your stomach. An expansive yes that feels like an opening in your chest. Intuition is the silent witness who, without being able to explain why, simply knows the truth. Its testimony is brief, inexplicable, and often completely contrary to the case presented by the lawyer. This is the duel, and our entire life, our entire education, and our entire culture have trained us to side with the eloquent lawyer and dismiss the testimony of the silent witness for lack of evidence. But we have already learned that intuition is a form of intelligence in itself. So how do we act as a wise jury? How do we deliberate in this internal trial without betraying any part of ourselves? The goal is not for intuition to destroy logic, nor for logic to silence intuition. The goal is integration. It is to create a deliberation room within you where both voices are heard, respected, and considered to reach a verdict that is wise and whole. This process of conscious deliberation consists of 4 steps. Step 1. Honor logic. The first step, and one that many aspiring intuitives skip, is to give the rational mind the respect it deserves. Do not fight it. Do not immediately call it fear or ego. Listen to it. Take your journal and let your inner lawyer present its full case. Write down all the pros, all the cons, all the data, all the logical arguments. Thank it for its diligence, for its attempt to protect you and ensure the best possible outcome. By honoring the rational mind, by allowing it to be heard, it often relaxes. Much of its resistance comes from the fear of being ignored. By giving it a legitimate space, you decrease the likelihood that it will try to sabotage the decision later. Step 2. Interrogate intuition. Once logic's case is on the table, it's time to call the silent witness to the stand. This requires you to descend from the noise of the head to the silence of the body. Sit quietly with the feeling your intuition is giving you. And now, interrogate it, not to get logical answers, but to delve into the quality of the sensation. Ask yourself these questions. Is this no in my stomach a fear of the unknown, or is it a serene warning? Does it feel hot and anxious or cool and clear? If this yes in my chest had a voice, what single word would it say? Expansion, home, adventure. If this sensation had a color, a texture, or an image, what would it be? This process of symbolic interrogation helps to translate the body's pre-verbal data into a language your conscious mind can begin to understand. You are building a bridge between the 2 worlds. Step 3. Search for the third way. Often, a sharp conflict between logic and intuition is a sign that you are trapped in a false dichotomy, in an all-or-nothing binary choice. Perhaps your logic tells you to accept a job because the salary is fantastic, and your intuition screams not to because the company culture feels toxic. The choice doesn't have to be accept the job and be miserable, or reject the job and be poor. The conflict itself is an invitation from your soul to be more creative. Ask yourself, is there a third way? Perhaps the intuition isn't saying no to the job, but no to the current conditions. The third way could be to negotiate a different role within the same company, to propose working remotely to avoid the toxic environment, or to use that offer as leverage to get an even better job elsewhere. The duel between logic and intuition often forces you to think more innovatively than either one could alone. Step 4. The test of time. If the decision does not have to be made this very instant, grant yourself the gift of time. Time is a great clarifier. The voice of logic, especially if contaminated by the ego's fear or desire, tends to fluctuate. One day it presents one argument, the next day, based on a new article you've read or a friend's opinion, it presents another. It is volatile. The true voice of intuition, in contrast, is incredibly constant. It is a quiet, persistent whisper. It does not change with the wind. If the feeling of no is there today, it is very likely to still be there tomorrow and next week, regardless of the new data your rational mind has gathered. Consistency over time is one of the most reliable signatures of an intuitive truth. Practice your deliberation room. Now, I invite you to bring this process into your own life. Choose an important decision you are facing right now. Exercise the decision trial. Take your journal and create 3 sections on a page. The prosecutor's case, logic. The witness's testimony, intuition. And the jury's verdict, my decision. In the prosecutor's section, write down, in as much detail as possible, all the logical arguments for and against each option. Use bullet points. List the data, the facts, the projections, the expert opinions you have consulted. Build the strongest case you can for each side, as a lawyer would. In the witnesses section, close your eyes and perform the decision body scan we practiced. For each option, describe your body's testimony in rich sensory language. Don't write, it feels good. Write, I feel a warm opening in the center of my chest, my breathing is deeper, and my shoulders relax. Don't write, it gives me a bad feeling. Write, I feel a cold knot in my stomach, my jaw tightens, and I feel a general heaviness. Be a poet of your sensations. In the verdicts section. Now, as the judge and jury, review the evidence from both sides. Honor the prosecutor's logic and honor the witness's somatic truth. Consider if a third way exists, and then make your decision. But don't just write, "I choose option A." Write the justification for your verdict. For example, although the case presented by logic in favor of accepting the offer is financially compelling, the testimony presented by my intuition, a persistent feeling of contraction and heaviness, is too strong to be ignored. This testimony has proven reliable in the past. Therefore, my verdict is to decline the offer and trust that a more aligned opportunity will present itself. This process transforms decision-making from an act of anxiety into an act of self-knowledge. It forces you to integrate all parts of yourself and to make decisions from a place of wholeness. The split-second decision, that choice born from the alliance between your mind and your body, is the greatest act of power that exists. It is the moment you stop being a slave to circumstances and become the author of your life. By practicing this art of inner deliberation, you not only make better decisions, you transform your way of being in the world. You stop living in the constant friction of doubt, and you begin to experience a state of grace and almost effortless effectiveness. This is the state of intuitive flow, the reward for your courage and your practice. Chapter 9. Intuitive Flow, Living in a State of Grace. This is not the flow state that psychologists talk about when they refer to total immersion in a single task. Intuitive flow is broader, more encompassing. It is a state of grace that permeates your entire life. It is the sustained feeling of being carried by the current of the river of life, rather than desperately fighting against it. It is the effortless dance between your intention and the universe's response. Living in intuitive flow is moving from solving problems to embodying the solution. It is an existence where friction, doubt, and forced effort dramatically decrease and are replaced by a sense of ease, purpose, and perfect timing. To understand this state, we must explore its qualities, the characteristics that define this way of life. The first quality is sustained synchronicity. When you enter intuitive flow, meaningful coincidences cease to be rare and surprising events that occur once a month. They become the normal fabric of your daily reality. The right person calls you at the exact moment you need them. The perfect opportunity appears just when you are ready for it. The book with the answer you're looking for falls off the shelf. Life begins to feel less like a series of random events and more like a beautifully orchestrated conversation. It's not that you've become luckier, it's that you have become a better dancer. You have learned to listen to the music of the universe and to move in harmony with it. The second quality is effortless action. This is the Taoist concept of Wu Wei. It is often mistranslated as doing nothing, but its true meaning is action without struggle, or action without forced effort. It is the state in which your actions arise from an impulse so natural and aligned that they don't feel like work. Think of the surfer. He doesn't control the wave. He doesn't fight against it. He studies the wave, feels its energy, and then aligns with it, using its power to glide with grace and speed. The swimmer who tries to cross the same wave head-on will be exhausted and tumbled. Most of us live like swimmers, fighting against the waves of life. Living in intuitive flow is becoming the surfer. Your actions are still powerful and effective. In fact, they are more so than ever. But they arise from a place of alignment, not resistance. The third quality is an elastic perception of time. Our obsession with chronos, clock time, dissolves. When you are in intuitive flow, it seems you always have enough time for what is truly important. Time expands to accommodate a deep conversation. It contracts when you perform a complex task, allowing you to achieve in an hour what used to take you a whole day. You stop living under the tyranny of the clock and begin to operate in kairos, opportune and qualitative time. You trust that things will happen in their perfect moment, not at the moment your impatient ego demands. The fourth quality is a deep somatic trust, the low-grade anxiety that accompanies most people, that constant worry of, am I doing the right thing? Am I making a mistake? Simply vanishes. It is replaced by a quiet trust that resides not in the mind, but in the body. It is a silent certainty, a feeling of being fundamentally safe in the universe. You become capable of holding uncertainty without it turning into fear because you implicitly trust your inner compass to guide you through any storm. And the fifth quality, the most liberating of all, is detachment from outcomes. When you live in intuitive flow, your satisfaction and your sense of worth are no longer tied to the achievement of a specific outcome. Your joy comes from the act itself, from the quality of your presence, from the certainty that you are acting in alignment with your truth. You focus on taking the right step now, trusting that a series of right steps will inevitably lead you to a right destination, even if it's not the one your mind had planned. This is the ultimate freedom, finding success in the process, not just in the prize. Of course, this state is not a permanent plateau. We are human. There will be days when life pulls us out of the flow. Stress, fatigue, an unexpected event, all can make us fall back into the old patterns of fear and control. It is crucial to know the enemies of flow, to be able to recognize them and find the way back. The first enemy is the ego and impatience. The moment you start to analyze the flow, to try to control it, to take credit for it, I'm so good at this, the ego reinserts itself into the equation. And with the ego comes impatience. You want the flow to happen faster, to give you bigger results. The instant you try to force the river, you lose the current. Flow demands surrender, not control. The second enemy is retrospective rational doubt. After an incredible series of synchronicities or an intuitive decision that worked out perfectly, your inner lawyer can come back and say, "That was just a coincidence. Don't get too confident. Let's go back to the data, to what's safe." This doubt can erode the trust you've built and pull you back into the cage of logic. And the third enemy is physical and mental exhaustion. Your body is the instrument of your intuition. If you neglect it, if you don't get enough sleep, if you eat poorly, if you ignore its signals of tiredness, it's like trying to listen to a symphony on a broken radio with no batteries. The connection is lost. Honoring your body's needs is a non-negotiable requirement for maintaining a clear intuitive connection. Intuitive flow is not a state that is achieved by force. It is a state that emerges when we create the right conditions within ourselves. It is a garden that flourishes when the soil is fertile. Practice, cultivating the terrain for flow. The following exercises are not intended to make the flow happen, but to create an inner space of calm and receptivity so that the flow can arise naturally. Exercise 1. The practice of non-doing, Wu Wei. Our lives are obsessed with doing. This exercise is an antidote. Schedule in your calendar, at least 3 times a week, a 15-minute block of non-doing. During this time, you are forbidden from being productive. You cannot check email. You cannot plan your day. You cannot read a book to learn something. Your only task is to have no task. You can sit and look out the window. You can take a walk with no destination. You can listen to music without doing anything else. At first, this will feel incredibly uncomfortable. Your mind will scream for a distraction. But if you persist, you will be teaching your nervous system to be comfortable in silence and non-action. You are creating the empty space where intuition can, at last, be heard. Exercise 2. The Flow Journal. This is a new type of journal. At the end of each day, instead of focusing on problems or tasks, answer this single question. At what moment today did I feel the greatest sense of ease, grace, energy, or flow? Describe that moment in detail. It doesn't have to be a great achievement. It could have been a conversation that flowed effortlessly, or the moment you suddenly found the solution to a small household problem. By recording these moments, you train your brain to recognize them, to value them, and to begin to actively seek the conditions that foster them. You are anchoring the feeling of flow in your consciousness. Exercise 3. The Trust Anchor. This is your emergency tool for when you feel you are falling out of flow and into a state of anxiety or forced control. Choose a simple physical anchor. It can be the act of placing a hand on your heart, touching the pulse on your wrist, or simply feeling your feet firmly planted on the ground. Create a simple mantra phrase that connects you with trust. For example, I trust the flow, I am being guided, or simply, I release control. When you feel anxiety rising, pause. Perform your physical anchor and repeat your mantra internally 3 times. This act serves as a short circuit for the ego's panic pattern. It is an instant reset that reminds you that you have the choice to return to a state of trust and surrender. Intuitive flow is not a mythical destination that only a select few reach. It is the natural result of living in deep alignment with your silent certainty. It is the experience of collaborating with life. By cultivating this state, you realize that the universe is not a battlefield where you have to fight for your survival. It is a dance partner that invites you to move with it in a dance of co-creation. We have learned to receive guidance, to trust it, and to experience the grace of flow. But how do we make this state not an occasional visit, but our permanent home? In our final chapter, we will explore how to move from doubt to silent certainty as our fundamental state of being. Chapter 10. From Doubt to Certainty, Your Natural State. We have reached the summit of our inner mountain. We have experienced intuitive flow, those moments of grace where life seems to dance with us, and our actions feel aligned and effortless. It is a peak experience, one that gives us a vision of what is possible. But what happens when we descend back into the valley of daily life? How can we bring the essence of that state into every moment, not just on the peaks, but also on the plains and in the inevitable ravines? How do we make certainty our baseline state and not just an occasional visit? This final chapter is not about learning a new technique. It is about a graduation. It is about the final transition from practicing intuition to being an intuitive person. It is the moment when the knowledge settles so deeply into our bones that it becomes our natural way of being. To do this, we must understand the true anatomy of silent certainty. It is not arrogance. It is not omniscience. It is something much more subtle and powerful. First, silent certainty is trust, not certainty. Certainty is the ego's need to know and control the exact outcome of every situation. It is a rigid demand that seeks to eliminate all uncertainty, an impossible task that only generates anxiety. Silent certainty, in contrast, is the deep trust in your ability to navigate whatever outcome life presents. It is not trust in the weather forecast. It is trust in your ability as the ship's captain. It is the calm that comes from knowing that, no matter what wave comes, your inner compass will keep you oriented. Second, silent certainty is humility, not omniscience. The truly intuitive person is not the one who has all the answers, but the one who is most comfortable in the I don't know. The ego needs to pretend it knows, that it has control. The intuitive being, in contrast, understands that its job is not to know the answer with its logical mind, but to remain open to receive the answer from its inner guidance at the opportune moment. Certainty is not in the knowledge accumulated in your head, but in the quality of the connection with the source of wisdom that resides within you. And third, and most importantly, silent certainty is a relationship, not a skill. Throughout this journey, we have spoken of intuition as a muscle or a tool. These are useful metaphors to begin with. But in the mastery stage, you stop seeing your intuition as a thing you use, and you begin to experience it as a relationship with the deepest part of yourself, with your higher self. And like any significant relationship, it requires constant communication, respect, listening, and trust. It is not something you activate only in big decisions. It is a conversation you keep alive in every moment. Living this way, in this infinite dialogue, radically transforms your day-to-day experience. Imagine a day in the life of the conscious navigator. In the morning, instead of being hijacked by the urgency of the phone, he takes 5 minutes of silence, not to plan his day, but to listen to it. He feels his body, He remembers fragments of his dreams, and he sets an open intention, a gentle question for the day. What is the most important thing I should pay attention to today? During his workday, he faces a complex problem. The old habit would be to enter a whirlwind of analysis and worry. The new habit is to pause. He breathes. He asks himself, what is the first intuitive step here? Perhaps the answer is call that person or take a 10-minute walk. He trusts that impulse. Then, once intuition has given him the direction, the what, he uses his magnificent rational mind to execute it, the how. Logic becomes the ally of intuition, not its enemy. In his relationships, he practices deep listening. Beyond the words that are said, he feels the underlying emotional current. He intuits what his colleague dares not say, feels his partner's need before it is expressed. His interactions become more empathetic, more authentic, and much less conflictive, because he responds to the truth of the heart, not just the logic of arguments. And at night, at the end of the day, he dedicates a few minutes to his journal. He doesn't review it like an accountant, measuring his productivity. He reviews it like a poet, looking for the moments of meaning. He notes the synchronicities, the moments of flow, the decisions in which he honored his silent certainty. He does it not to judge himself, but to marvel at the dance, to reinforce his gratitude for the dialogue. This is life as a work of art, a constant co-creation between your conscious self and the deeper intelligence of the universe that flows through you. To anchor this way of being, I offer you a final practice. These are not exercises to learn, but commitments to live by. Practice, keeping the flame alive. Exercise 1, the master question. From today, I invite you to install a new question at the center of your consciousness, a question to guide the rest of your life. The question is, what is life with a capital L trying to experience or express through me in this moment? This question changes everything. It takes you out of the ego's paradigm of, what do I want to get from life? And places you in the soul's paradigm of, how can I serve the unfolding of life? It transforms your existence from a quest for acquisition to an offering of service. Living within this question automatically aligns you with the greater flow of the universe. Exercise 2, your inner council of wisdom. You do not have to navigate alone. Throughout this journey, you have awakened a connection with your wisest self. Now let's give it a structure. Create a council of wisdom in your imagination. Choose 3 to 5 members. They can be historical figures you admire, a philosopher, a leader, an artist, mentors you have had, archetypes, the sage, the warrior, or even a future version of yourself who has already achieved mastery. When you face a doubt or an important decision, mentally summon your council. Present the situation to them, and then ask each member, what is your advice? You will often be surprised by the clarity, diversity, and depth of the answers that emerge from your own mind. This exercise is a powerful way to externalize and access the different facets of your own intuitive wisdom. Exercise 3, the commitment of kind imperfection. Inevitably, there will be days when you fall out of the flow, days when doubt assails you, when fear takes control, and when you act from your old patterns. This is not a failure. It is part of the human journey. The final and most important commitment is that of self-compassion. When you realize you have lost the connection, the practice is not self-criticism or punishment. The practice is simple. Notice, here I am, trapped in fear again. Smile. A kind and compassionate smile toward your own humanity. Return. Gently, without drama, bring your attention back to your anchor, back to your breath, back to your body, and reopen the dialogue with a simple question. What is the next right step now? The goal of this path is not perfection, but a loving and persistent return to your center, again and again and again. Silent certainty is not the absence of doubt. It is the presence of a trust so deep it can hold doubt without collapsing. It is not a voice that gives you all the answers. It is the silence in which you can, at last, hear the only answer that matters. your own. You have arrived, not to a final destination, but to the true beginning. The beginning of a life lived from the inside out. The beginning of your life as a work of art, guided by the master hand of your own silent certainty. Conclusion. Silence holds all the answers. Our journey began with a broken compass, lost in an ocean of information and noise. We started from the frustrating feeling that, despite thinking more, analyzing more, and striving more, clarity remained elusive. We have traveled together through the landscape of our inner being. We have learned to descend from the attic of the mind to listen to the wisdom of the body. We have opened the door to the nightly theater of dreams and have learned to see the footprints of synchronicity in the world around us. And most importantly, we have learned to distinguish the calm and expansive voice of silence from the anxious shouting of fear. Now, at the end of our path, we arrive at the simplest and most liberating truth of all. Intuition is not a magical power that is acquired. It is our natural state, an inheritance we have forgotten. Silent certainty is not something you find. It is what remains when at last you eliminate all the noise. Your journey does not end here. It becomes your life. The next time you feel that inkling, that hunch, that serene feeling of knowing without knowing why, trust it. Not tomorrow. Not when you feel more prepared. The next time. That is the only step that matters. The universe does not ask you to understand everything. It only asks you to listen. If this journey has resonated with you, and you wish to continue exploring the path of self-knowledge and inner wisdom, we invite you to subscribe to our channel, Path of Knowledge. A like on this audiobook helps us enormously to know that this content has been of value to you. And if you believe this message could be the compass someone else needs, we encourage you to share it. Certainty, like wisdom, grows when it is shared. Thank you once again for your time and your attention. See you next time.